On Shrove Tuesday this year, I was in Loughborough at the railway station handing out cakes to passers-by. It was part of a diocesan-wide initiative where we simply wanted to say, in view of God's generosity to us, we want to show generosity to others. So as I was stood there in my cassock, handing out cakes to people about to commute into Leicester or wherever, we got a lot of strange looks, but also a lot of people who received very thankfully a cake and got into conversation about why we were doing it as well. So when we think about our churches and our part within the bigger church, we remember that the contribution that each church makes towards the common fund of the diocese is a part of our giving back to God in response to God's generosity, but also part of our expression of being just one part of something much bigger. So whether you meet with 200 people in your church, whether you meet with 6 people in your church, whether you're part of an inner city church or a market town or one of our small villages, you are part of something much bigger. And we want you to know that you're playing your parts in God's church across this city and county. The costs of supporting churches all across the city and the county don't vary hugely from year to year, but we are hugely dependent on every church being willing to play their part. So I hope you'll reflect more on God's generosity to you and your part within this diocese. Thank you for all you are doing.
I think it's very important in a church not to feel that we're on our own, that we not feel that we're just a little club here in Shepshed, that we are part of the bigger church. You know, people often ask me what it is about my ministry that I love the most, and for me it's about community, about building community, about seeing the people grow together and trust one another and care for one another, and it's about seeing new people coming to faith. The Wednesday morning communion has now got 40 or 50 people, whereas when I came 12 years ago there was about 12. And they don't like to miss, they really just feel part of that fellowship. So yeah, it's just really, just really sort of growing all the time. I'm reaching retirement age. I've suddenly decided that it's time that I had a bit more time for myself and my family and do the things. So I've got myself a house. I did have various choices because the Church of England do offer you various funding help and with the clergy pension.
When we proceeded with the application for the reordering, naturally we had to complete the necessary documentation, for which the DAC were very, very helpful. They came along with 1 or 2 suggestions. Because of the amount of reordering works, they suggested that we focused on doing the whole project rather than do it in a cherry-picking fashion. In order to actually proceed with the project, we were short of funds, and we'd had a charitable fund from the former primary school, and the diocese, through the Diocesan Board of Finance, were able to agree to lend us the shortfall.
We have regular monthly training for curates. Most recently we actually had media training, for example, and actually that sense of being able to engage with the media and make use of it for the promotion of the gospel was one of the most useful things I've had recently. We'd had an excellent family service which was doing huge amounts of work. They took the bold decision to move from just one family service a month to having it every week, and we just saw so much growth through that that we just couldn't cope with the sort of number of people and the vision that we had. And so we applied to the Growth Fund for a Children and Families Worker to develop that and move much more into that area, into what we could do to bring children and families closer to Christ and to see all that that had to offer. Well, I trained at Queen's College in Birmingham, which was just the best place for me. It was challenging because it was a very different setting from the places that I'd been in before, very multicultural, learning to engage with other faiths and all sorts of things. The training was brilliant. It taught me to think for myself and to be able to apply what I knew of God to the situations I found myself in.
As a church, we're very involved in all the schools, but particularly the church school, St Botolph School, which is a wonderful school, and we have a great relationship.
Being a Church of England school here, for me in particular, is it all links to the mutual support and the reciprocity that we can get with each other. So we're the only Church of England school in Shepshed. That's our sort of unique selling point really, and it does, for us in particular, bring that real ethos and that real shared sort of spirituality between the schools. So this year in particular, the sort of church presence, shall we say, within school has significantly grown. The congregation, they appointed a family support worker who is in every day, just hearing children read, but the fact that she's there all the time, it's a key person. But along with her has come about 5 or 6 other members of the congregation who now it says it's given them a reason to get up in the morning to actually come and hear the children read. But now they're stopping. We have a monthly lunch club for them, so they've become part of our school.
We were asked at church if there were any people who could go to school on a Monday morning, and that suited me, a Monday morning. So I've been coming here well over a year now, and I get a lot out of it.
Well, Passion was set up as a youth drop-in centre 7.5 years ago, and it was done ecumenically. So we've got the input of 4 churches trying to support antisocial behaviour in the centre of Shepshed. But Passion's essence is about sharing the gospel and showing that mission in your community is an awful lot of fun. When I was first employed at Passion, I'd come from a mental health background. So I had got very little theological training, and so I was put on the Diocesan Leadership Programme, which gave me a rough idea of where God was working and how we could recognise that in Shepshed, but also how I could lead a group of people to recognise those things for themselves and to continue the work on. Since then, I've been on the Mission and Ministry course, which I didn't do alone. We had 6 volunteers who also attended, which was great. So having people who are dotted around Shepshed, who all have an understanding of mission and how it works, has been really useful for seeding new projects.
So I'm very keen to look at what resources, what training things are on, and I'm usually and very eager for my people to go on them as well, because it's no good just me doing it. I like it when my people go to things and they come back and they say, you know, we've learnt this, we've learnt that, but can we do this, can we do that? So always looking for new things to do, new avenues, new ways to bring people to faith.